One of the biggest focus I noticed about the schools in London was a heavy emphasis on curriculum leadership and curriculum development. And with curriculum leadership and curriculum development, all their professional learning just focused on that. And it wasn't just a one-day course, it was a series of professional learning. So the teachers went to the professional learning or identified the professional learning because they saw their students' outcomes weren't good enough in a particular area. So they had this moral purpose where they wanted to improve themselves, not because of an interest sake, but because of their students' outcomes.
So in returning from London, I've already started thinking or rethinking, reimagining professional learning at my school, how I have framed that, how I can redesign that, and how I can engage all of my staff so that the professional learning is driven from a very strong evidence base from our teachers, focusing on their craft, focusing on the practice in the classroom, and leading ultimately to improved learning outcomes for every student in our care.
One of the beautiful strengths from seeing a system that has been fragmented and they've kind of rising from the ashes of what's happened to the system is that the great leaders have made great improvements in their schools by sticking strong to core beliefs and core values. So moral purpose, an unrelenting focus on what's best for students, on giving their teachers really structured, important professional learning that's specific to them and their needs, and it's always about every teacher getting better and therefore all the students making the progress and getting better. And that real context approach to knowing their school, knowing their community, and putting things in place that will really benefit them. And that's really great to see, and it's also, I guess, allowed us to reflect on our system and seeing some of the wonderful strengths that we have as a system, as one system, one department. And then just how can we tweak that to improve and really make it successful across the board for all of our students in public education.
I like that notion over there where they were planning for and implementing effective teaching and learning. And the emphasis is on that notion of effective, because how often do we have professional learning? It may not be tied up to curriculum and it may not be effective, and yet their professional learning was all about effectiveness. What impact will this particular professional learning have on student outcomes? Not on me, but on the students' outcomes. And so there was a heavy emphasis on that and a heavy reliance on that. And I think that's how some of the schools we saw were growing their own staff, having that moral purpose.
We know for a fact that we want to build the capacity of all of our staff. We consider every single teacher a leader in their craft, and as such, we're looking at a lot of coaching and mentoring, professional learning occurring across our schools, and we want to make sure that we can sustain and keep our staff up to date with current research, Axon research that's been trialled and had great success across in London. We want to bring that back into New South Wales, as well as building the capacity of the staff here within New South Wales and our schools.
If every school in New South Wales focused on one thing to improve learning outcomes across the system, what would it be and why? And it links back to my first answer, and that is professional learning. If we can get professional learning in schools structured, targeted, around the context of what kids in each school need to learn, and then we support it system-wide and we have strong principles around that, around quality education. If it's well researched, well thought out, consistent across the system, consistent across networks, and like Paul said, it's shared and collaborated, then I think we can make a huge difference to the learning students.
Let's go.
Woohoo!